Welcome to another episode of the PFF College Football Show. I'm your host, Max Chadwick, alongside my co-host, Dalton Wasserman. We've got another top 10 positional ranking to give you guys. Our top 10 running backs in college football. A little more abbreviated version of this, Dalton. Last week with the quarterbacks, we did each top 10 position list. Now we're going to combine our rankings into a consensus PFF College Football Show ranking. So basically, I put up together a top 10. Dalton put together a top 10, and we combine them into one to get the consensus top 10. And man, it was tough finding 10 running backs, Dalton. There was a lot of running backs to choose from. It's probably one of the strongest positions in college football heading into next season.
Yeah, there's a ton of talent returning to school this year, Max. And I'll tell you what, our list here might be abbreviated, but the process wasn't. I started with over 30 names on my list going through them. At first, I only felt comfortable about maybe 5 of them that had to be on there. There was a ton of guys. There was probably at least 6 or 7 of them that I was like, man, there's a real argument you could put them in a top 10, and it's a matter of preference. It's loaded this year. I know this past year's draft class kind of got run down as far as top end talent. There is no shortage of talent in this year's college football running back group.
Absolutely. So just kind of show how loaded it is. Of the 15 leading rushers from last year at running back, 12 of them are returning to school. So that is, and there's a lot of guys that even weren't in that 15 group that we're going to talk about today as well. So this is a loaded position in college football. Let's break it down, though, with our number 10 player, which is R.J. Harvey out of UCF. Had his best year yet as a fifth-year senior this past season. 6th among FBS running backs with 1,417 rushing yards, 17 carries of 20-plus yards as well. The only running back who had more carries of 20-plus yards was Ollie Gordon, who we'll, of course, talk about much later on this list. Harvey's a little bit smaller, of course, at 5'8", 195 pounds, but that low center of gravity allows him to really bounce off tackles. He broke 74 missed tackles last year, which were tied for the 6th most in the country. So R.J. Harvey, probably one of the most slept-on running backs in college football, in my opinion, and he comes in at number 10 on this list.
Yeah, great pairing now they got there with Penny Boone also and KJ Jefferson at quarterback. They're going to be Gus Malzahn's got a lot of weapons to work with in the ground game. I'll tell you what, another team with what in the Big 12 with weapons to work with on the ground is Kansas State, and their lead back DJ Giddens is going to come in at number 9 here. 89.6 rushing grade last year, 69 forced missed tackles, 10th in the nation, 40 explosive runs of 10 or more yards, 7th most in the country, and 223 carries last season with 0 fumbles. I'll tell you what, Giddens now, Treshaun Ward, his partner last year, transferred to Boston College, but Giddens and Avery Johnson in the backfield. Kansas State's running game is going to be as good as ever, and Giddens is the lead dog. He's fast, he's strong, he's really physical when he runs, and he just fits everything Kansas State does so well. I'm expecting a huge year out of Giddens in the backfield as they kind of work on their passing game with Avery Johnson on the side of that.
I can't wait to watch that running game next year with Avery Johnson and DJ Giddens, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's say actually in the Sunflower State, Dawn, with our number 8 running back, and that is from Kansas in Devin Neal, who's been one of the most productive running backs in the country over the last couple seasons. He has 2,373 rushing yards over the last 2 years, only trails Quinshon Judkins and Blake Corum among Power 5 rushers in that span. 25 rushing touchdowns as well, which are 4th to Blake Corum, Quinshon Judkins, and Audric Estime as well. Really shifty back, elite change of direction skills. He constantly is breaking defenders' ankles out there. I am really excited to see him and Jalen Daniels together next year. Even though Andy Kolodnicki, now the offensive coordinator of Penn State, is gone from Kansas, I still think they're going to have one of the most potent rushing attacks in college football, honestly, with Devin Neal leading the way.
Totally agree on that. There's a ton of running backs in the Big 12, and we're going to get back to them. But we'll leave the conference for the first time here at number 7. Let's go to Cal. We're going to the ACC. Jaden Ott, 1,311 rushing yards last year, led the Pac-12, 833 of them after contact, 11th most in the country, on the way to an 89.5 rushing grade. Look, Cal, not really sure who they're going to start at quarterback yet. Is it going to be Fernando Mendoza? Is it going to be Chandler Rogers? But the one constant on their team right now is Jaden Ott in the backfield. And I'll tell you what, watching him, he sees a crease, he gets north and south, he hits the accelerator, man. He can make a big run happen at any time. He could by the end of this year be the best back in the ACC. We've got another one coming that's got a very good argument as well. But Jaden Ott at Cal, a very underrated player and really the engine of their offense.
Yeah, he was outstanding as a true freshman as well the year before. I mean, he's an athletic player, man. You give him a crease and he's gone. Another guy who's a lot like that And one half of by far the best backfield in college football is Travion Henderson, who checks in here at number 6. Like Jaden, like I said, he's a big play waiting to happen. Really, really fast player. The problem with Travion Henderson, he's kind of been plagued by injuries. In 2022, his sophomore season, he had a great freshman year. Sophomore year, banged up a lot. But this past year started to look a little bit more like himself. He had a 90 PFF grade this past season, which was 7th among Power 5 running backs, 5.9 yards per attempt as well, 2nd among Big Ten running backs. Now, again, he still missed 3 games due to injury this past season after missing a ton of games the year before as well. So hopefully, with a guy that's going to check in later on this list, hopefully with him coming into the fold, maybe Travion Henderson can stay a little bit fresher for Ohio State and be a guy that they can count on all season long instead of being, the go-to number 1 running back for them. But when he's on the field, man, he's certainly one of the best running backs in the country. Would have been one of the top backs in the 2024 NFL draft if he declared. He decided to come back for his senior year, like many other Ohio State players. And like I said, he's going to form half of the best backfield in America next year.
Yeah, and Buckeye fans are going to love that hard charging style in Chip Kelly's offense that he's bringing there. I'll give you another hard charging back though here at number 5, and moving back to the Big 12 again. It's getting to be a theme. Let's go to Texas Tech down in Lubbock. They got Taj Brooks, man, who had a top 10 rushing grade last year, well over 1,500 yards, led the nation with 96 forced missed tackles and 89 first downs. This guy, he is a 230-pound sledgehammer. Arm tackles are not allowed if you're playing Texas Tech, and Taj Brooks, man, he might take over for Audric Estime from this past year as the single most physical back in the country. He is just a problem when he gets ahead of steam. He's got good vision. Not the fastest guy in the world, but I'll tell you what, it is darn near impossible for a college kid to tackle him one-on-one right now. Taj Brooks adding another to a loaded group of running backs in the Big 12 that we're going to be talking about all year, but he may be the single most physical back in the country. Just the way he brings it right downhill at Texas Tech is going to give him a chance to win every week.
He absolutely is. I love the way to describe his sledgehammer is the perfect way to describe Taj Brooks. He is, I think, the most physical back in college football. The most versatile back in college football checks in here at number 4, which is Ashton Jeanty, our guy from Boise State. If you haven't checked it out already, check out our interview with Ashton. He was phenomenal on the mic. He's even better on the field, too, which is saying a lot considering how good that interview was. But in 2022, as a true freshman, he led all FBS true freshmen with an 89.5 grade. In 2023, as a sophomore, he had a 94.9 grade, which led all running backs in the country, and he was the most valuable running back in the country, according to PFF's wins above average metric. He was the only running back in America with 90-plus grades, both as a rusher and as a receiver. He led the nation with 578 receiving yards, 82 forced missed tackles on the ground, was 3rd among FBS running backs. Really, the only reason why he's probably number 4 on this list, Dawn, and why I was lower on him, admittedly, than you were, is because of the level of competition there in Mountain West and Boise State. But make no mistake, man, Ashton Jeanty is absolutely one of the top running backs in college football and will be one of the top running backs in the NFL draft because of how versatile he is, both as a great runner and an unbelievable receiving threat out of the backfield too. So Ashton Jeanty very much deserves a spot on this list, even though he's the only group of 5 player who cracked the top 10 in this list.
He's incredible. The only group of 5 player, but I'll tell you what, he could start on darn near any of these teams. I think he's that good. It was actually a quick moment, Max. I considered him for the top spot on this list. I think he's that good. We'll get more on that. We'll get more on that later. And as we talk about Boise State, if he keeps them in playoff contention, everything like that. But another great back. Let's get into the top 3 here. Let's go down to North Carolina. And, all the spotlight was on Drake May and on the receivers and all the big-time throws and everything happening down there for the Tar Heels in their offense. But the engine of it all, even last year with Drake May in the fold, was Amarion Hampton, man. 1,500 yards, 5th in the country, led the nation with 1,072 yards after contact. Why did he need all those yards after contact? Well, North Carolina ranked 101st in run blocking grade last season. He still managed to put up 1,500 yards. He's as physical as any back in the country. He's a first down machine, and he's the 2nd fastest returning running back according to our top speed metrics at right around 23 miles an hour in the Power 5. So you got a guy, he's big, he's fast, he's determined, he's running behind not an elite run blocking line. He's got everything. With whether it's Max Johnson or whoever's starting a quarterback to replace Drake May out there in North Carolina, Amarion Hampton is going to be the engine of their offense as he was last year.
We interviewed Mac Brown, which you could check out before the draft too. We talked about a lot about Drake May, but we did get a question about Marion Hampton. And he was like, "Man, our defensive backs hate tackling Marion Hampton in practice." And we said it like, "Hey, coach, I think everyone in the ACC and everyone in college football probably hates tackling Marion Hampton too." So, yeah, it's a great breakdown with him. And yeah, the top speed was crazy to me when I saw that in our metrics as well, Dalton. I was like, "Man, I did not know he could hit that fast." But yeah, Marion Hampton was an absolute freak. Coming in at number 2 is a guy who's transferring from Ole Miss to Ohio State. And like I said before, the best backfield in America. One of the biggest reasons for that is Quinshon Judkins, who has been the most productive Power 5 running back over the last 2 seasons, which were also his first 2 seasons of college football. He had 2,726 rushing yards, most in Power 5, 1,800 yards after contact, most in Power 5, and 154 forced missed tackles, most in Power 5. So like I said, he has been absolutely dominant for Ole Miss over his first 2 seasons. This guy was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school too. It wasn't like he was touted as this highly rated guy coming in, and yet he immediately produced at Ole Miss and has been one of the top running backs in the country ever since his true freshman season. And now he's going to Columbus at Ohio State. Won't probably be the bell cow back like he was at Ole Miss with Trayvon Henderson there as well. That should still mean that Ohio State is going to have one of the most potent offenses in college football because of that. And Quinshon Judkins has this fantastic contact balance, 6 feet, 219 pounds. I mean, he is going to be one of the top running backs in the draft, if not the top running back in the draft, just because of how productive he's been over his first 2 years.
Yeah, I totally agree. Judkins has been amazing for 2 years, honestly, and even a down year for him was over 1,100 yards and 15 touchdowns. Yeah. It's not even fair sometimes the criticism he was getting last year. He's incredible, and I think having Henderson along with him to get him more rest is going to help the both of them. But moving to number 1, a guy who was just incredible last year for a team that wasn't nearly as incredible as Ohio State. This is the Doak Walker Award winner, Ollie Gordon at Oklahoma State. It's just, for as badly as part of my gut wanted to put Ginty number 1, you just can't deny what Gordon did last year. 1,732 rushing yards, led the nation, and he only had 19 carries through his first 3 games. And Max, something I was thinking about, those first 3 games, those were against Central Arkansas, Arizona State, and South Alabama. It's entirely realistic that if Gordon would have had a full workload in those 3 games, he could have put up a 22 to 2,300 yard season. And we would be talking about legendary stuff. I mean, he did the bulk of this work in 10 games, and they got to the conference title game, and just Texas was a brick wall, and he couldn't carry him through that. But I'll tell you what, man, 21 touchdowns, was second in the country behind Hampton in yards after contact, over 1,000, 45 explosive runs of 10 or more yards, led the Power 5. There is nothing Ollie Gordon can't do, and he did this on a team that was 102nd in run blocking grade last year. I'll tell you, I had a chance to grade his game against Cincinnati, and yeah, he had, I think, over 270 yards in that game, and it was just incredible to watch. If he gets a crease, he's gone. I mentioned Marion Hampton being the second fastest returning back in the Power 5. Ollie Gordon's the fastest. So you've got a guy who put up 1,732 yards in a little over 10 games. And now if you get him for a full season and the experience and everything else that comes with it, it's really, you think about it statistically, it's almost limitless where Ollie Gordon could take this thing, as long as there's just enough around him so teams aren't stacking 8, 9, 10 guys in the box every single play. But you just can't deny what Gordon did in such a short time last season. It wouldn't make any sense to put anybody else above him.
Yeah. Also the 3rd most receiving yards among Power 5 running backs last year, too. So very, very versatile player. You said it perfectly, man. Elite vision, elite footwork. And then also he could, of course, run over 23 miles per hour as well. So I think there's only one position, Dalton, in college football that the top player at that position is returning to college football, and that is running back in Ollie Gordon. I think every other position, the top player entered the NFL draft. So running back's the only one where I think, we actually are returning the top player. So I think Ollie Gordon's a pretty easy number 1 for that. But that's what we got for our top 10 running backs in college football. Be on the lookout for later on. We're going to dive way more in depth on each of these 10 guys in their own individual videos as we transition to more short form content. But please subscribe to the channel. We're going to do more of these for every single position. We're going to preview every team as well. So make sure you subscribe, because we're deep in the college football offseason right now. And we can't wait to do some more. So for Dalton Rossman, for Bruce Eli, I'm Max Chadwick, and we'll see you guys next time.